He talked to Tell me, he told me, I'm like, yeah, I believe it.
Crazy.
I said, when Dan's done with that horseshoe, can I have it?
Well, then,
Yeah.
Dan,
Oh,
I don't want
that money doesn't grow.
shit at general store.
Denise?
The gun.
Okay.
I said,
So you can't, it's not investable, you just got
It is.
it
Okay.
doesn't grow in this account, it grows.
That's such a nice stand too. Oh, that's awesome.
My brother, but then inflation was eat away. That's what I mean, it's not gonna be worth
Beautiful stand.
Okay.
5 years, whatever.
You guys ready
lots
then?
of, that's a room for a view.
Yeah.
Hello. The Todd County Board of Commissioners acting as drainage authority for the Todd County Ditch Number 41. This is an informal meeting of Todd County Ditch 41 repairs. Everyone is welcome to be here. Treat everyone with respect. During the question and comment period, raise your hands to be recognized by the chair, and please come up to the microphone, state your name, address for the records, and 5 minutes per speaker. We will now stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Then we'll do introductions, and I'm Commissioner Barb Becker, Commissioner Newman, Commissioner Denny, Commissioner Byers, and Commissioner Noska. Denise, you want to go ahead and our auditor treasurer? Jackie, our coordinator, Nancy, our ditch, and our attorney, and is it Kale? Kale, yep. Okay, very good. With that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So I'm Cale Van Bruggen. I'm with the Rinkelman Law Firm. We represent the Board of County Commissioners as the Drainage Authority, and as you know, we're here for County Ditch 41 today. It says informal meeting. It's also an informational meeting. So the purpose of the informal meeting today is in order to go through this agenda that you have before you, I'm going to provide a little bit of overview just of what the board's duties and responsibilities are, how ditch maintenance works, how that's paid for. Ms. Eulenkamp is going to provide into the record some information about the notice that was given, extra notice besides the regular public notice to invite landowners who are affected by the ditch system here today. And then Ms. Eulenkamp's also going to go over what's some of the history of this ditch system, what some of the current issues are with the ditch, and then she's going to provide an inspection report talking about portions of the ditch that are out of maintenance and need repair, and she has some cost estimates of what that's going to cost. When she is complete with that, then there's going to be a public comment and question period where you can provide comments to the board. It'll be the chair's discretion whether that's something that we can answer and respond to today, or whether it's something we might need to go back and get some more information about. And then when everybody's had a chance to speak, we'll have just a brief discussion with the board about what the next steps are, and then we'll adjourn. So unless there's any questions for me, Madam Chair, I think we can let Ms. Eulenkamp provide the public notice records.
Okay.
Okay, so for notice, I did 93 landowner letters were mailed. There was no notice needed in the newspaper because there's no petition for repair. So we were not required to do a notice in the newspaper. Did you want to do more basics of ditch law?
Thanks, Nancy and Madam Chair. So just to provide the public and as a refresher for the board who's heard me probably say this too many times now, some basics of 103E ditch law. The board is meeting today in their capacity as the drainage authority. They have jurisdiction over both the property and the landowners who recovered damages or were assessed benefits when County Ditch 41 was first established. Each landowner who now owns that property today has a vested property right to have that ditch maintained back to the condition that it was in when it was first established, subject to any modifications that have been validly approved under 103E, which we call the ditch law, since that time. The statute obligates the board and the ditch inspector to on a regular basis inspect the ditch system, and then maintain the ditch system back to that original as constructed condition. However, the board has a little bit of a tough job to do in making the decisions on maintenance. They have to balance both those economic concerns, also with the environmental laws that regulate 103E ditch law. Because this is a repair, a lot of the newer environmental laws that have been adopted since this ditch was first built are exempt, because the proposal is just to repair it, not to improve it or do anything new. But there are still some weighing of those interests that the board has to do in deciding what to authorize and what not to authorize. The maintenance work that's done is done within the ditch's existing right-of-way, for which damages were already paid when the ditch system was first established. And so typically with a repair, there's no payment of damages for accessing the property and doing the work, with the exception that if repairs have to be done on any portion of the ditch system where there's growing crops, then crop damages are paid. We try to coordinate so that it's not done during crop growing season if we can help it. But if we can't, then of course damages are paid for any crops that are destroyed as a result of the repair. But for the rest of the property, the drainage system restores it back to the grasses, or if there's a buffer's been acquired, they would restore the buffer. But they don't pay damages because the right-of-way has already been acquired and paid for by the landowners who owned the property at the time the ditch was first established. The costs of any of the repair work, those are apportioned and paid for based on what we call the benefits roll of record. So when the ditch system last had a determination of benefits, each property was assigned a theoretical dollar value of what the increase in property value is provided by the ditch. That relates to a percentage tied to that property, and then everybody pays their proportion based on how their property is determined to be benefited. Again, we're just here today to provide information, find out any questions or comments that landowners have about maintenance needs on the ditch or what's being proposed. Try to answer as many of those questions as we can. And then after that's complete, then talk about next steps, which might include the board taking action at a future board meeting, but not tonight. Madam Chair, do you or any of your commissioners have questions for me about the purpose of the meeting or some basics of ditch law?
Are there any questions? No, we're fine.
Thank you.
Then, Madam Chair, I think we can turn it over to Ms. Eulenkamp, who's going to provide some information about the ditch system and about her inspection reports.
Okay, thanks. So there's the general reference map. All the landowners received this in the mail, and the board all has it in the packet, so you can see the different areas of the ditch. Was gonna do a little update on Lake Chaminade because I've been getting a lot of comments or a lot of calls from other landowners on Lake Chaminade about this, so I figured I'd just give you guys a quick update. So with the project, there was severe flooding in spring of 2024. And it's causing them delays. There was a washout of the pipe in the Blue Line ditch east of the Morrison Line Road. Last time I spoke to Rick Roser, there's investigation and engineering being done to determine why it blew out the way it did and to make sure that it doesn't happen again. South of Pulaski Road on the Todd County side, there was flooding in the spring, but it looks pretty good now. So the Blue Line ditch, May 2nd, and this actually isn't the worst flooding because the time that I went out there, the first time with the worst flooding, I didn't get a picture of it. It was raining. So this is what it looked like May 2nd. The pipe that you can see sticking up there actually floated right up out of the ground. So October 10th, it's all dried up, but the pipe is still sticking out of the ground. They haven't moved forward with it yet, and I believe they're in litigation with Landwehr and Houston Engineering on how to take care of the extra expenses that are going to be incurred with this by the lid. South of Pulaski Road, May 2nd, it was pretty full of water May 2nd after all the rain. October 10th, it had already receded. The township put in a new culvert there. So the Todd County side looks pretty good. The Morrison County side is the side they're having issues with. There has been monitoring equipment installed. If you landowners have looked at the equipment that's sitting out there on Pulaski Road, Quicken Road, County Road 28. At the time that we approved this, they weren't sure what kind of monitoring equipment they were going to use, and they did go with the ultrasonic water level devices. They continually measure water surface elevation, and then that real-time information is sent electronically to their control system, and it will immediately shut down the pumps once it reaches the trigger elevations that were approved in the maintenance and operation and maintenance plan. So that's good, because they originally had talked about just putting sticks in there basically that you could look at the elevation, but this way it's electronically going over there. So this is what the devices look like. This is the one that's south of County Road 28. It's just the box and the laser eye thing there, excuse me. So I'll go back
Nancy,
now.
can I ask you a question? Just
Yep.
go back one slide.
Okay,
Okay, when you're looking at that monitoring device, it doesn't look like it's very sturdy. They have to maintain that, correct? I
Yeah,
mean, if a
that's
snowplow
owned by
goes
them.
by and
Nope, that's
and
owned by
wipes it
them.
out, they have to put it back up again, correct?
yep, that's owned by them.
Okay.
So does anybody have any questions about Lake Chaminade? That's kind of all the information that I have. The Lake Chaminade lid gives updates on their website if anybody needs to go look at what they're doing.
Anything yet?
No,
No.
nope, they have not. Anybody else have any more questions? Okay. So, I'm seeing some new faces that weren't here last time. So, conditions of the ditch. So the County Ditch 41 was built in 1917. It's located in Fawn Lake Township in 16 sections. The main ditch is approximately 6.3 miles long. It starts at the railroad bridge south of Pulaski Road area, and it ends at County Road 28. The entire main ditch is Fish Trap Creek and is all designated as public waters. Some examples of problem areas on the ditch, and this isn't all of them, but on the main ditch, there's old dam debris, old dams that have been breached, and then the associated sediment that's accumulated around the dams, and then associated vegetation that's grown in. And there's just other areas where this is south of Pulaski Road, just the vegetation in there that's narrowing the ditch, and then other old dam areas. The laterals and branches, they're approximately 12.88 miles long. Lateral 3 is designated public waters, and lateral 9, the part that's west of Red Rock Road, is also designated as public waters. Otherwise, the rest of the laterals are all non-public waters. Lateral 3 is very vegetated and grown in. The section of Fish Trap Creek that's not County Ditch 41 will not be able to be excavated. So lateral 5, 6, and 7 outlet to Fish Trap Creek in sections 8, 16, and 17. Lateral 8 outlets to Fish Trap Creek in section 10, and lateral 9 outlets to Fish Trap Creek in section 3. So this loop here is the old Fish Trap Creek that is not part of the county ditch. This is lateral 7 up here, lateral 6, lateral 5 are down here. So those laterals are outletting into what is not actually part of the county ditch system. So my concerns with the laterals, there's not enough money in the maintenance fund to clean all the laterals. The soil types and wetland regulations may not be practical to clean some of the laterals. They are all wetlands. Actually, the whole entire ditch is pretty much wetlands. And we cannot drain wetlands that have existed for longer than 25 years. I talked with the TIP last week and about what kind of a project we were gonna be doing. And they recently added type 1s and type 2 wetlands to their wetland regulations. And they said we could do vegetation removal, but if we wanted to excavate ditch bottom, we would have to do more engineering to show the excavation wasn't gonna impact any wetlands that have existed longer than 25 years. But we would be able to just do vegetation removal. So for the main ditch, like when I talked with the TEP, what I'm recommending for a project is to do spot cleaning, removing the dam debris, sediment and vegetation that's grown where the old dams were. Do the project in ice-off conditions so the ditch bottom is visible so we can see where those, I call them sandbars because they look like sandbars are around where the old dams were. And then since the conditions of the ditch, there's no way we're gonna get a backhoe out there, or not a backhoe, no way we're gonna get a dozer out there, which is what you usually do when we spread the spoil. All the spoil will be spread with the backhoe as they go along. And they're gonna do spot cleaning If there's no dam debris, doesn't need excavating, they're just gonna drive by it until they get to the next spot that's gonna have vegetation or dam debris to be removed. The laterals, we need to determine which of the laterals will be cleaned. Lateral 3, if we maintain lateral 3, it needs to be done the same time that the main ditch is done, when the amphibian excavator is there, because it will be needed for lateral 3 also, because it's a very wet lateral, and even with mats, it's not gonna be able to be driven on. And the laterals that aren't public waters, we could possibly have them maintained in the winter and do it with backhoe with mats, which would be less expensive than what the amphibian contractor would do. So for an estimate, I contacted Midwest Amphibious Equipment, they're out of Grand Rapids. He said that we could either bid the project by the day or by the whole project. Since I don't know how long it's actually gonna take them, how far they'll get per day, they may get a lot more done in a day than we anticipate they will. So I thought it'd be probably better for us to bid by the day than to do a project total and then not have them take as long as what they were anticipating it was gonna take. So do by the day instead of by the project. Their work week is six 12-hour days. Approximately 10 to 10 and a half hours of that time is running time. The balance of the time would be remote fueling, transportation of the men, and then equipment maintenance. So they would work about 10 and 10 and a half hours would be actually doing the excavation. They have a 17-foot wide amphibious excavator that's on pontoons. It's got a top speed of a mile per hour. So with 6.6 something miles of the main ditch, if they could get a mile done a day, it may not take as long as what we're thinking it would. So the estimates for that long reach excavator on pontoons and a Marshmaster MM2 with 2 operators. So that's basically the vehicle to get them out to the excavator and to bring fuel and equipment back and forth. They'd leave the pontoon, or they'd leave the excavator out there and then use this for access back and forth till they're done. So mobilization would be $20,600, and that would be in and out. And then the daily rate is $15,000. So with with what we've got in the fund balance is approximately $200,074. Let me try that again. $274,448.43 is approximately what that fund balance is at right now. That is before this meeting and for any ditch inspector fees as of July 1st. That would be taken off of that amount. So I think it was 13 days. If we went with $270,000, 13 days of work would be that amount. I'm hoping they can get it done in less time than that. So the good thing is there's not trees. When you have this wet of soils, you don't have trees.
Right.
So the good thing is there's no trees. There is one section of trees on the Trantina property, and I talked with Jim Trantina the other day, and he actually said to save money, his family would be willing to remove those trees instead of having the excavator do it. And that's actually a sandy area also, so the excavator could actually just skip that section because there isn't much for dams or old stuff in there. It's just basically all the trees that fell across the ditch during the last storms. So he said that they would be willing to do that section so the excavator would not have to go there. I told anybody that was on a lateral, I sent letters telling them what lateral they were on and asking them to please contact me and let me know what they had in mind for their lateral, if they were even interested in having it cleaned. I had a landowner on lateral 8 call and say that if there wouldn't be an additional expense, they would be interested in lateral 8 being cleaned. Lateral 6, he didn't really say if he was against it or for it. He just wanted to know what kind of access we'd need to get in to the property if we were gonna do that. Jim Trantina, he also has lateral 5 on his property. He sees no reason to clean lateral 5. Lateral 5 is one of the laterals that connects to the creek that we cannot clean. And then another landowner, lateral 2, they did not want cleaned. So that takes a few laterals off of our list. I have pictures of the laterals if you guys want to see them before we move on to public comments. If you guys want to see the pictures.
Okay.
The lateral 1, I took off the ditch layer, which makes it hard to see where it is, but if the ditch layer is there, you can't see it. So this is actually lateral 1 right here. So it's fairly grown in. And then there's another piece that comes off this direction. Lateral 2 is actually this right here. And the landowner on this end said that he doesn't want it cleaned, so, and I have not heard from any other people on lateral 2, but that's what that one looks like. Lateral 3 is actually the one that's public waters. That's this right here, and then this is a branch of lateral 3 here. Lateral 3 is really the only lateral that actually is open, and you can actually see water on it. That one's actually pretty open. A lot of congestion up through here. That's where all of those, that's where the pictures were from, where the congestion is in that area. Lateral 4 is right here. Again, you can't see lateral 4. This lateral, though, I know that that landowner has talked to me in the past about wanting to have that cleaned if we ever do a project. So that one, that landowner would want cleaned. Lateral 5. Lateral 5 is right here. And that one also is not visible, and that's the one that Jim Trantina said he doesn't see any reason to clean that one. Lateral 6 comes down here. It touches this little body of water, and then it goes this way, and it goes down into this body of water. We are not going to be able to excavate into this body of water or out of this body of water. It's because we can't drain that wetland. And that lateral, this landowner here, the last meetings that we've had, he had already told me that if we had the money to do it, that he would like that lateral cleaned. That one also connects to the section of Fish Trap Creek that is not part of the ditch system. Lateral 7, this is a fun one. This is lateral 7 right here. You can kind of see the U shape here, and it connects to the non-ditch section of Fish Trap Creek right here. That is extremely grown over. I did not hear from anybody on this lateral, but the same person that's on lateral 6 is also the same person that owns this parcel right here. So I don't know if he's interested in having that one cleaned. I don't know if there's any point to cleaning that one. Lateral 8. I should have kept my map with me. It goes down along, that's a weird shaped one. Yep, lateral 8's that. It comes down like this, over like this, and then down. And that one's hard to see too, but it outlets into a waterway that's been cleaned recently. So that one does have an outlet. And lateral 9 is this whole complex right here. This section here that's connected to this small little waterway has been cleaned in the past by that landowner. So that goes to the railroad tracks, and then on the other side of the railroad track, it runs along here, and then it runs this direction down, all the way over here, and then up into Mud Lake. And then there's another part of it that actually goes along in there also. So this one's also hard to see, but I know landowners in that area would be interested likely in those areas being cleaned, except for, of course, the inlet into Mud Lake. Or I assume that's probably the outlet of Mud Lake. So anyways, that's the laterals. They're very overgrown, except for lateral 3 is the only one that's really an open, able to be seen. And this lateral 9 area, there has been some hold harmless agreements done, so they have been maintaining some of this over the years. So. Okay. So do any of the landowners have questions or comments about your laterals, or do you want to?
If you want to come up and then state your name and address for the record, if you would, please. Yeah, they're all the same.
Push the button, yep, there you go.
Hi, my name is Ryan Roden. My address is 32994 Pulaski Road. Lateral 2 goes through a piece of my property. I have a couple of questions. What is the main incentive or motivation to do any of the work on ditch 41 or the laterals? What's driving it?
So basically with Lake Chaminade doing their outlet petition, and we know that they're gonna be outletting water to the ditch system, we wanted to make sure that the ditch system was free of the dams and the other debris that would slow down any water coming in. The laterals, if there's no interest in cleaning the laterals, we're not going to be cleaning the laterals.
So in effect, is the Lake Chaminade project costing this money? Otherwise, we probably wouldn't have to do this?
Nope, actually, well, there's been desire over the years to clean this ditch, but there's never been nobody's wanted to pay the bill of what it would cost to do it. So Lake Chaminade, the lid actually paid a $90,000 outletting fee, and Morrison County actually paid a $200,000 fee on behalf, well, I'm not sure word what they were doing so much road work that they thought at $200,000 paid to the maintenance fund of ditch 41. If the outlet petition was approved and a contract was let, they gave $200,000 to the maintenance fund. So there's about $274,000 in that maintenance fund right now.
Is that being offset by those funds that were provided by the Lake Chaminade project?
Those are the funds that were provided by Lake Chaminade.
Okay,
Yeah. So the objective is to not have a landowner assessment. This would all be paid for by the money that Lake Chaminade basically and Morrison County have put into this fund as a maintenance fund for ditch 41.
got it. What would be the timeline for this work to take place?
So for the main ditch, we want to do it when it's ice-off conditions, so that'll be anytime in spring when everything's thawed until fall when it freezes up again. It's just a matter of when the contractor can fit it in to do it. And then the laterals, so your neighbor to the northeast does not want his section cleaned.
Are you allowed to say who that was?
Yeah, I don't see why I can't.
Yeah, you can.
Steve Dvorak. So he doesn't want his section of lateral 2 cleaned.
Sure.
And you own everything else then south, right? Until the main ditch?
South to Pulaski, and then we have an 80 that lateral 2.
Okay, because I knew I saw your name on there.
Yeah, so I don't know a lot about it. I don't know the purpose of the original lateral, or I don't have any real motivation, I don't think, to have it cleaned out. Is there any reason to do that landowners want this done?
Your properties are basically the benefiting properties on that lateral. The railroad track goes and cuts off anything that would be coming from the other side. So your properties are basically the benefiting properties.
When you say benefiting, what does that mean?
Your waters are running to that lateral and probably nobody else's. Because they can go to the main ditch. And then there's another lateral just up from you, which is lateral 4.
And it means that when the ditch was established, the viewers determined that those are the properties at that time that benefited from the initial construction. So the statute says that those are the landowners that pay in proportion to their benefit for maintenance going forward.
And I don't believe there's any other parcels on that lateral but yours and Dvorak's. I'm on 1. Yep, but you're not on 2, you're not on lateral 2 though. He's talking about lateral 2.
I think that's all the questions I have.
Okay, so basically what I'm wanting is input. If you don't want it clean, then we're just gonna cross it off the list and we're not gonna worry about it. So, and then we also have to follow regulations for the wetland rules. That's a very wet lateral. Follow the wetland rules if we're even gonna be allowed to do more than just vegetation removal.
Do we know what the impact of cleaning it would have on the surrounding property? Would it dry it out, or what? I'm
We
not
can't
really
dry
sure.
up anything that's the wetlands basically that have been there longer than 25 years. So,
Yeah, and because there hasn't been a big incentive to spend a bunch of money to keep this ditch, as clean as possible, we haven't been in a position where we've appointed an engineer to study and look at that and provide data, just because there hasn't been motivation from the landowners who pay for that engineer to spend the money to do that.
So in theory, back to the funding, the money that the property owners pay for maintenance, that's not paying for this project?
Because there's already money in the fund that was contributed from Morrison County in the lid, like Nancy said, the cost will be deducted from that before there would be any assessment, and right now that fund is greater than what is estimated to be the cost of the
If we clean the
project.
entire ditch, no. But
So,
if we
right.
pick and choose, we should be able to do it for that dollar amount.
When you say the entire ditch, that means including the laterals?
Right,
Okay, so we're here to try to figure out which laterals we don't have to do.
right.
I don't have a strong preference to do anything with lateral number 2.
Okay.
I don't think it really is going to affect me. It's probably gonna be swamp either way.
Right, yeah,
And-
because we can't drain anything that's been there longer than 25 years.
Okay.
So, all right, thank you. Yep,
If you'd like to come up.
I'm not a property owner there, just hopefully a somewhat
If-
informed
okay.
citizen. My name is Bill Haugen from Staples.
Okay.
Should be my address.
If you could, please, for the record.
705 Forest Avenue, Southeast in Staples.
Okay.
I guess I'm just a little leery of the county spending a bunch of money cleaning and maintaining ditches that are probably gonna fill up anyways due to the low gradient vegetation growing over them. In general, it's good to keep the wetlands as near to their natural state as possible, although it's hard to say what's natural with climate change coming or whatever that we're in already. But I would like to see them allow it to drain down in the dry time of summer. And that's partly due to mitigating the mercury TMDL that we have in the Long Prairie River. Maybe it's just portions, I guess my information is mostly from before the more recent, what they call it, study for the Long Prairie River, which Control Agency did it, gave portions of it to you. I can't remember the name of it, but they did quite a, in fact, might even been here maybe 10 years ago. So there's a lot more information still just showing up as mercury, contaminated with mercury. So my idea on that is not necessarily to avoid the wet season as so much to avoid the warm season when the soils are warm, the peatland soils. And then, so like fall would be a good time to have the system operated, or spring, after the water's warm enough to pump, but before you get the big snowpack runoff, or then maybe on the declining part of that. See, another concern is what's specified in the plan as far as the mechanical treatment of the aquatic plants we don't want over here. Maybe ducks are gonna spread them eventually, but if we could just not do it ourselves would be good. And I think it could make a big difference what order. I'm presuming mechanical means screens. I guess I don't really know how they're planning on keeping those out of the ditch system, but it would make a difference what order you clean them, as far as not letting what's between the screens through. Somebody smarter than me, like I probably wouldn't be able to state it correctly right now, but somebody should think that through and put it in the operating plan. That's it.
Thanks. I can say that, I think we can talk to the contractor about the screening on the mercury piece, if that was.
so I think he's talking about the, like Chaminade.
Yeah, their plan.
On Lake Shannon, which we can't control, right?
Yeah.
On the mercury piece, since this is a maintenance, not an improvement, that is something that if this was like a petition improvement, the engineers would have to consider and look into further before anything went forward. but this is limited in scope just to maintenance back to the original condition. And so there's not gonna be any sort of special study of the mercury as part of this, because that's outside of the scope of what the ditch system has to do.
Okay.
It has to do with the operation plan,
Right.
the pumping.
Right, and I sent you the operation and maintenance plan, so you should be able to read in there
Yeah,
what
I
they're,
think it
what
should be
they're-
improved over the way it is.
that has already been approved by the board.
Yeah, I know, I realize that.
Yeah. So that's kind of a,
But you have another hearing, so I came to say that.
Any other questions or comments? You would like to come up, just state your name and address? Oh. Oh, yep, push the button.
There you go.
Mary Gallagher. It would be on 1. And I have 2 brothers there, Mike and Pat. Dvorak?
Yep.
Okay. We would not want anything done either.
on lateral one.
Yep,
Okay.
that's basically all of it.
Nice, thanks for coming.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else would like to speak? Comments? Yeah. You want to just come up to the mic so that we got it?
Is it, I know this is about the ditches, but is it okay to talk about the Lake Shannon pumping project?
I can tell you what we know, what I know, but
If it's okay with the chair, I mean, it's outside of what the board is talking about today, but if you wanna spend time on it, Madam Chair, we can.
If you just got a few questions, you know.
Sure. I guess my big question, and I don't know much about the plan to pump water out of the lake. I am concerned over sort of trying to engineer our way through something like that and suddenly shortcutting the water into ditch 41. When I see like brown water at where that pipe came up out of the ground, is that gonna be just directly dumped into this waterway with all of the sediment and
so you're talking
whatever?
about when the pipe failed?
Yeah,
Okay, so that was kind of a unique situation because with all the flooding, and because of the soil type that is there, because that's a real peat area, that water was gonna be horrible. From where you see where that pipe comes across the road, then it's going to be, piped. I can't remember, was it piped or was it ditched? I don't know if you
It's
were.
piped.
Piped.
Piped
It's
along
piped
along the east side
on
of
the east side of
Pulaski.
Pulaski Road, or not, actually, no, actually on the
South
east
south
side of.
Pulaski,
yeah.
I'm sorry, yeah.
But
South-
it's gonna be
south-
piped
heading
down the
west.
east side of Morrison Line Road. It's gonna be piped down there, and then it's gonna be piped under Pulaski Road. And then it's going to go to where that new township culvert was put in, and then from there. let me
well,
see
it
if
gets
I-
piped along Pulaski. on
Along
the
Pulaski,
south
and then
side.
it goes through a small tributary,
It just
before it
dumps out.
hits, before it hits County Ditch 41, it actually goes through a small little tributary through a big wetland area before it hits the main, the actual ditch. And I've got pictures somewhere of it.
I've got some pictures too, Nancy, because I was out there when it came up.
Okay, but I mean, as far as, because the picture that I showed you of the, let me see if I have those pictures from, so here's that, here's where it's gonna come across, comes to 10, and then they're piping it along 10, and then that blue line ditch is this then to the Morrison Line Road. And originally it was gonna go through this direction, and now they have since. It's Pulaski Road, yeah, they've since brought it down along here, and then they went down, but you see this waterway right here? That's just a small tributary that then goes into Fish Trap Creek, that then at the railroad track here turns into County Ditch 41. So it infiltrates through this wetland here before it hits this area.
So where that pipe is sticking out of the ground, do you know if that ties into another pipe or where the collection point is for what feeds that pipe?
It is still in the ground, and let me go back up to my picture.
Because I noticed an inlet that's right by Highway 10.
Yep, so where this pipe is, can you see where this grass is kind of growing in here? That's actually where the other end of the pipe is. It's supposed to be connecting to that, and it's supposed to pipe through that, be a pipe all the way through that ditch.
And it looks like there's a large inlet right next to the highway. So what it's doing is it's short-circuiting drain off from that highway directly to the wetland through a pipe. It
Yep.
doesn't have any natural means.
There used to be a ditch here. There was always a ditch here. It was called the Blue Line Ditch. But it was a physical ditch. And if this would have actually worked and not blown out like it did because of the flooding, it would have been, the water wouldn't have even been going through the peat area. It would have been going through the pipe. It would have conveyed through the pipe. But since it blew out like it did, now you've got all of that sediment all stirred up in that wetland. So once that gets fixed again, it's going to be water conveying through a pipe, not going through the wetland.
I guess that's my concern, is that we're taking water from the highway and rather than letting it filter through miles of wetland before it hits Fish Trap Creek, we're short-circuiting and bringing it directly, as it is from the highway, directly into the creek, and it daylights right out there. I watched the whole thing get built.
Yep.
So is there no concern over contaminants or other impacts on the rest of the waterway?
That would have been something that, if it either was addressed or wasn't, but was part of the lid process, that this board can't address now. I mean, that process has been designed, ordered, approved, the appeals period has passed, and now it is what it is. So,
I do know that the highway, or the MnDOT would not let them use a culvert that was for MnDOT conveying water, and they had to put in their own culvert. So, do you remember that, Lou, when MnDOT made them put in their own, they wouldn't let them use the one they already had there?
What was that? I don't know.
MnDOT wouldn't let them use their culvert, they made them
They
put
had to
in their own.
new one in, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this is all part of that outlet petition
Yep.
that we did it was a few years ago before I was on board
2021
here,
was when
but
it got approved.
it
I
was-
understand, it's built, yeah.
Yeah.
There's no going back, but is there any sort of fail-safe in place if this engineering ends up causing problems where, you know, there's a way to stop the pumping if the creek gets too high?
There is a way though. They have a monitoring device that actually will shut the pumping off
Yeah,
once
for-
the
for
creek
the-
gets so
for the
high.
height,
It's
yeah.
an
Across
actual
the
elevation
street on
monitoring.
my road,
Yeah.
they
So,
have to put
I
in
mean,
a
that's-
power pole on my property for it, so I'm
That's all
familiar.
there is for
So,
that.
but besides the operating and maintenance plan with us, they also have stuff going on with the DNR.
So people are watching this heavily.
Yeah, I mean, if you had concerns, I would contact the DNR and ask them
Okay.
those concerns, because we can't do anything about it.
Sure,
Maybe they can, but we can't do anything about it.
okay.
But as far as like the milfoil that they had, they do have filters to keep that out of the system. So that's kind of what I thought you were getting at, was the Eurasian milfoil, but they do have filters for that before it gets,
Just
out of
general
that lake.
contamination, I mean,
Okay.
it's very concerning. I understand that process has
Yep.
run its course and this is where it's at. But I just want my concerns to be voiced.
yep,
that-
and I would,
Have they done
the-
permitting for the repair work? Is the repair work in our county?
nope,
It's in there, in
it's
Morris.
It's in
County.
Morrison County. And correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no way as a county board that we could deny them the use of the ditches?
it was, you know, my predecessor from the firm
Yes.
that was around at the time. But, my understanding is the engineering was done, it showed that the ditch system had capacity to be used as an outlet. And, you know, that was adopted and now that order has become final.
Yeah.
And so at this point, you know, to go back and undo it is not an option.
And Madam Chair, we also had our own engineer
Yes,
that the lid paid for
Yes,
verify that all of their data was correct.
we
on
did.
The water level for coming into County Ditch 41.
Engineer, I was acting on behalf of Ditch 41
Yes.
specifically.
Yes.
Watch that.
Okay, you want to state your name and address then?
Paul Prestridge, 41737, County 7, Browerville. So I don't have my map with me, but coming off of Rat Lake, they had a proposed where that ditch goes north and south.
Okay, yep.
And then the proposed was like a dog leg.
So
Can we come to
that's
you?
lateral 6. Right there's rat. So that's
Yeah.
lateral 6
Here's
you're talking
rat.
about that goes up that way. So there's rat.
So this would cut right across the property, right?
Yep, this goes on the,
So what would be the purpose of redoing this to here instead of leaving the existing one that's there?
what do you mean by redoing?
This is proposed, the red's proposed?
No, the red is what the design, the red is what the original design in 1917 was. The green is what the as-built is what we.
So it's
can see
changed in
now.
108
Yep.
years or 10 years?
Yep,
Okay.
or they didn't build it to
Yeah.
specs. when they
Okay,
built
that
it.
was my understanding. Okay, I was wondering if they're gonna recut that across the
No.
property, so that's gonna stay.
No,
And the ditch law requires that when you repair it not to the design, but what was constructed at the time of construction.
So stick with what you got.
right.
Stick with what was built rather than what was.
Okay, cool.
So there will be no reroutes, there will be no,
That's it.
it'll just be cleaning what's there now. Yep. If you wanna- Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Board, do you guys have any questions or comments?
Yes, Madam Chair. This is majority DNR wetland. I mean, it's
So when you're.
Public waters?
So the whole entire main ditch is public waters.
Okay.
And then lateral 3 is public waters.
okay.
And that section of lateral 9 that's west of the railroad tracks is public waters. It's a short section of 9.
All right. So if we go in there and we clean it, where are we going to put the spoil? And would the DNR allow us to put that spoil within that wetland? Or does it have to be hauled out?
So we're gonna put it back on the original spoil piles. And we're allowed to put it back on the original spoil piles. So when we're doing the main ditch, it's not gonna be a total excavation of the main ditch. So all there's gonna be for spoil is gonna be old dam debris and some vegetation.
So it'll be partially,
Yep, so it's not gonna be like the other ditch maintenance where we've excavated ditch bottom the entire way, and you've got large amounts of spoil to deal with. It's just gonna be spot cleaning of old pieces of dams, some of the sediment that accumulates around the dams and vegetation and stuff.
Because
It's
this
not gonna
is-
be a complete clean out.
this is Fish Trap Creek.
This is Fish Trap Creek.
So it's not a county ditch per se. It's
It is
basi-
County
it
Ditch
is, but it's-
41, yep.
But it's basically a,
It just has public waters designation, so if we wanted to actually go and actually excavate the entire ditch, we would have to do surveying.
okay.
And the entire ditch doesn't need excavating because it's actually a pretty open waterway.
Yeah,
And
'cause I-
Madam Chair, if I may too, Randy, to your question there, though, if it's just debris from beaver dams and things like that, you are allowed to actually place it where it came from, which would be the wetland.
Yeah.
So the DNR, it's kind of an exempt activity. If it's just beaver dams, like she said, if we're excavating ditch bottom the whole way through, yeah, there's a lot of spoil, but in this case, they should allow us to just
Okay.
shuffle it off to the side.
Because my earlier years as commissioner, we got in trouble
Right.
with the DNR and we had to mitigate,
Yep.
and that wasn't fun. So I just want to make sure that the DNR is okay.
Yeah, and that actually wasn't a county ditch that was excavated, that was a
Well,
waterway.
yeah,
That was excavated.
It cost us some money.
It did cost money, yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Nancy, anything else to come before?
No, so what I think I'm gonna do then is get more of a solid, more like a quote then from the contractor, and then I will bring that to a future board meeting. to get then approval to go ahead and hire.
You'll
and do
bring
that.
it to a regular board meeting.
Yep, and I still need to find out up on lateral 9 there, what wants to be done up on lateral 9, if we want to, if that desire is to clean that. I mean, I've got the laterals I know we're not gonna clean, because people have said no, but there's also some laterals out there that I haven't heard from people.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
Nancy, will you have, when you present to the board, will you have a concrete list of the yeses and the nos on the whole plan?
Yeah, so when the main ditch is cleaned, if we're gonna clean lateral 3, it needs to be done at the same time. The rest of them, we could almost get away with doing in the winter with mats and a regular excavator. Because it's not public waters, and it's not as, they're bad, but they're not as bad as what the main ditch is with how much a regular excavator, well, actually, the biggest thing with the main ditch is we wanna do it with ice-off conditions so we can see ditch bottom and see what we're digging out of there. That's why we can't do it in the winter.
Well, my concern was just that you would have a
Yes,
sound
of-
recorded
yep.
list.
Yeah,
of
I'm not, yeah,
every
I won't be.
Or that's,
yep.
yes, I'm in favor, no, I'm not.
Yes.
So we have that in public
Yep.
record in case somebody would come back and say,
Yep,
okay, thank you.
yeah, and that's what because there wouldn't be anything done until next spring anyway after ice-off.
okay. Nancy, what's kind of the time, oh, go ahead, come on up.
Hank Smith, 30902 County Road 28, Motley. When you get all these laterals clean and everything clean, are they gonna maintain that ditch?
So if,
Like on ours where it's eroding all the corners out, are they gonna come and fix them up or?
so you're talking about the same area like Leroy Smith is talking about? Okay.
Leroy and mine are right together.
Okay, so I've got pictures from 1953 where it was already starting to move. And I've gotten pictures from 1997 where it looks pretty much the same as it looks today. With the thing. I know Soil and Water has talked to Leroy and said that they would do funding for erosion control and exclusion fencing, but their engineer does not feel it will be money well spent to reroute, to realign it, because it's gonna end up going right back to what it is. So, and this project is basically a spot
Those
cleaning.
The other ones,
Which other
all the
ones?
money you're spending on cleaning them laterals, they're just gonna grow back up too.
Right, but we're not rerouting anything.
No,
Yeah,
you wouldn't be rerouting that where it goes to ours, it would stay right in the same spot. It'd be where it's supposed to be.
right, but it's going to go back to where it is now. It's the path of least resistance is what it looks like, because it's looked like that since 1979. So, and what we're doing right now is this spot cleaning. We're not doing a rerouting of the ditch or realigning is beyond the scope of what this project is. So,
No, yeah, that's right. And the money's been put in the account in order to do the spot cleaning that we can do, you know, to prepare for the water that's coming. And the statute says the board has an obligation to do maintenance, you know, where it's needed.
so,
Yeah, don't tell Leroy.
yeah. And they already did tell him that they would do the,
Never got back ahold of him.
yeah, they did. I don't know that they've heard back from him, though, if he wanted to.
Couple, 3 guys come out there and he said, I haven't heard nothing.
He talked to Deja Anton, who is the director. I know she talked to him and told him that they would do riprap and that kind of stuff for the erosion control and the exclusion fencing to keep the cattle out of it, but they weren't gonna do the realigning. So,
Okay.
You had touched on the cost briefly. Was there a competitive process in place to make sure that the money's being well spent?
so there is only one amphibian excavator in the state,
Nice.
so it's hard to get comparable bids with that. But if we did, when it's decided what laterals want to be cleaned, if we could do those in the winter and use regular contractors with mats, then there are multiple regular contractors with mats, so then I would get more than one person to bid on. But it's really difficult with the amphibian excavator because there is nobody else that does it.
When do we find out if this work is going to impact our property? You mentioned it's going to be kind of spot cleaning.
So if you don't want your lateral cleaned, we won't be on your lateral.
But the main ditch goes through my property.
Yep, and if you have dams and other debris in that area, because if there isn't, there won't be anything done to it.
Will we be notified when people are going to be?
If you want to, yep, if you want to know, because it's just basically going to be, the contractor with the machine that he has is going to drive right along the ditch. He's not going to be going out on somebody's property. It's going to be right along the ditch. Just all the way through from one end to the other because they don't need to worry about, they aren't going to sink. So they don't have to access from other people's properties or anything. It'll just be driving along the ditch. But yeah, I can let you know. If you want to know, I'll let you know
Okay,
that when we'll be there.
perfect.
Any other questions or comments? If not, Nancy, what's kind of the timeline if you're looking this to come back to the board?
If nothing would be done on the ditch until ice out next spring. So
Okay,
sometime this winter, I would bring something in. There's a couple of landowners that I know have said, two have said that about wanting their lateral clean, but they didn't contact me and they didn't come to the meeting tonight.
okay,
So I'll probably contact them, but yeah, I will have a list of what we are cleaning and what we aren't. And like I said, again, it's all gonna really depend on how long it actually takes to do the main ditch, how much money we have left over for laterals. So it's gonna be we may not know how many laterals we can do until we're done with the main ditch.
okay.
So,
It might help to know now, is there gonna be 7 feet of water in the ditch for these guys to get through? Or are they gonna have to dig a new ditch just to get the machine through?
no, the
'Cause right
machine,
now, it's really low.
the machine can either drive on water or it can drive in the wetland. And it's a pontoon machine, yeah. It actually does best in water. It doesn't do best on, like, driving on a driving in a swamp is perfect for it. So it'll just drive right along the ditch bank.
Any other comments or questions? Board? No?
Madam Chair, yeah, I do, I do have one. How diligent do we have to be about making sure we get every landowner's response? Do we send them enough letters and then just say we're done, or do we have to actually make sure they say yes or no?
Well, I've got the two landowners that I know for sure that I'm gonna contact directly. Everybody else got a letter saying, please contact me, and they didn't. So
Okay,
I'm gonna assume
so
they
if they
don't
didn't
want them
contact
cleaned.
you, we're just gonna assume they don't want anything done or they don't care. Okay, that's my question. Do we need to actually get a response or not? I don't.
There's no obligation.
Okay.
She's doing an incredible job going above and beyond.
Right, okay.
But not because she has to, but because she
Right,
wants
right,
to.
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
provide good service. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments to come before? If not, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Motion by Byers. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we are adjourned. Thank you. Thank you all for
Thanks,
coming.
everyone. Thank you, everyone.